What the does that mean? No. Been chasing that high ever since. That is creepy to me. Nice and stinky. Not good. That sounds violent in a way that I could like. It's prefaced with a warning. This is a book I own now, I guess. Hi, I'm Sam. There's quite literally no one asking me to do this, but I just bought a bunch of books that I'm really excited about, and I want to talk to someone about them. So I'm going to scream into the abyss about them. So a couple of these were gifted to me, but most of these are just used ones that I found, and I'm excited to read. So I'm going to start with one that I'm actually currently reading. That is Butcher's Crossing by John Williams. In my last video, I waxed poetic about John Williams. So since I love stoner so much, I am now reading Butcher's Crossing. This is definitely more like Cormac McCarthy vibes. We're out in the Wild West. Very character driven, but it also is reminiscent of stoner in that we have our main character who is unsure of who he is, another very insular read. So yeah, it's the 1870s. We're following main character Will Andrews, who drops out of Harvard to go out west and hunt for some buffalo. He literally meets these strangers and gives them $600, so he could have just been robbed blind. Not a good idea, but they take him out to hunt some buffalo. But I think it's one of those deals then that as our main character is trying to find himself by going out into nature, he is changed in ways he didn't anticipate. And then I think, obviously, since it's the 1870s, we're very much dealing with the Industrial Revolution. So I think it's going to be one of those deals where it's like he's being really changed just as the landscape around him is being changed in maybe unexpected ways, and maybe some good ways, but also maybe some other ways that are like not good. So I'm like that far of the way through. I'm really taking my sweet time with this because John Williams only wrote 4 books, and this is already the second one of his that I'm reading. So I'm really trying to cherish my time with him. Love his writing. I'm really enjoying this. So that's that on that. Next, I picked up a used copy of another John Williams, that is Nothing But the Night. Interestingly, I think of all of the synopses of John Williams books, this is the one that appeals to me the most. So this is actually his first novel, a brooding psychological noir about Arthur Maxley, who is a young man at the end of his emotional rope. Having dropped out of college, he's holed up in a big city hotel living off an allowance from his family, feeling nothing but alone and doing nothing but drinking to forget it. What's brought him to this point? Something is troubling him, something is haunting him, something he cannot bring himself either to face or to turn away from. And now his father has come to town, a hail fellow well met. What the fuck does that mean? A hail fellow well met kind of guy? I don't know what that means, but that is what that man is, apparently. A hail fellow well met kind of guy. They've been estranged for years, and yet Arthur wants to meet, and so he does, reeling away from the encounter for a night of drinking and dancing and a final reckoning with the traumatizing past that readers will not soon forget. Yeah, that sounds good. And this is a shorty, so I anticipate that I will be picking this up very, very soon. I also love the NYRB editions of John Williams' works. I don't think I mentioned this in my last video, but the pages for Stoner were the most buttery soft things I've ever put my hands on. So I don't really know what else to follow that up with, but that's a thing I said. Okay, next are a few that I purchased because of my classics video, where I mentioned that I am cosplaying as a smart person this year, trying to read more classics. And I think a good way of doing that, since I'm in my like reading what I own, annotating girly era, is to buy a physical copy. And since these are classics, you can usually get a copy of these books for pretty cheap. And that is what I did. So the first is a used copy I got of Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee. I like the size of this. It's kind of like a little baby mass market paperback. I think J.M. Coetzee is going to be an author that I'm going to really enjoy. So I also had my eye on Waiting for the Barbarians by him. And honestly, after reading that synopsis, I was like, ooh, that one actually seems a little bit more appealing to me, but I still do want to read this one too. So whatever, I'll probably just read both. But this one I already mentioned is about this professor who like starts this affair with his student, and he becomes disgraced. This won the Nobel Prize in Literature 2003, won the Booker in 99, so I'm excited to read this. I also got this really awesome beat up copy of Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. I love these like nice soft paperbacks, and this one's like nice and stinky. This one also had some annotations by the previous owner, so I love that. I just feel like it gives the book that much more character. It makes the book feel like a living thing, which I love. So another classic that I talked about in my classics video that I'm going to read. So I'm excited to beat this copy up even more and annotate it. Okay, and then the last one that I purchased because of my classics video was actually one that I had a really hard time finding. It must be out of print. I even had a really hard time finding it for my library. So when I found a copy on Thrift Books, I was really excited. But Thrift Books is always such a gamble because they're like, oh, it's in acceptable condition. And like acceptable could be like it has a single library sticker on it, or it could be like someone's dog chewed it up, you know? So I don't know. I just did it. It was the only available one and I knew I wanted a copy of it. So when it arrived, I was like, oh, okay. This is a book I own now, I guess. So that is A 5-Year Sentence by Bernice Rubens. I don't know what is with this like Roald Dahl looking ass cover, but this is not a kid's book, and this cover makes it look like it's a kid's book. This is actually a really morbid book. It's a hardcover, which I wasn't expecting. And then also another thing I wasn't expecting, because it wasn't on the listing at all, the largest print I've ever seen in my entire life. So I got a old library version of the UK hardcover large print edition of A 5-Year Sentence by Bernice Rubens. So it was quite a journey when I opened this and was contemplating what I had just received. But anyway, either way, the contents are the same. I'm just going to be able to read like 20 pages a minute. But yeah, this is the last classic I want to read. This is about a woman who gets a 5-year diary on the day she retires, which subverts her plan that she was going to end her life. I think this is going to be funny, dark, very black comedy vibes, and I'm looking forward to it. Okay, next is one my sister got me. This is by an author I've been really wanting to read. Have not read anything by her yet, but I will now. So that is Waif by Samantha Kolesnik, and this is just like a little shorty novella type deal. Angela has everything she thought she ever wanted: a successful husband, a lavish house, and a bottomless fortune. But the sight of a strange man in a grocery store one night reawakens her dormant sexuality, and soon Angela embarks on a dangerous descent into the world of underground pornography and back alley plastic surgery. As the stakes get higher, long-buried memories resurface, and Angela finds herself enamored with Rena, a fetish film performer. With some help from a queer gang called the Waifs, Angela is forced to make the decision between her unhappy upper-class life and the treacherous world of underground film. I'm excited. That sounds good. Me like. So this is another one I got for Christmas. My partner got for me because I had previously read something by this author and really liked it. So that is A Girl on the Shore by Inio Asano. Gotta say, I did a flip through of this though, and there seems to be quite a bit of sex scenes in this. I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this. Inio Asano is kind of hit or miss for me. I loved Nijigahara Holograph, been chasing that high ever since, have not reached it. So I don't know, maybe A Girl on the Shore could do it for me, but when I was flipping, I was like, oh, that's a penis. Okay, that's fine. Now I know. Now I know. Yeah, so okay, Sam, what's this about? It's an intense teen romance set in what may at first glance be one of the sleepiest places in Japan. When Komei and Keisuke's relationship begins to take shape, it is apparent that they are both searching for something. Maybe Keisuke wants something more than a kiss from the fair Komei. Maybe Komei is looking for someone better than Misaki, the local playboy. Oh my god, there's a typo. There's a typo in this. But what they find in each other over the course of a summer night... Oh my god, okay, Sam. No, I just can't read. That's what it is. Okay. But what they find in each other over the course of a summer might be far greater than anything they were expecting. We got like teen romance, but with a lot of sex, apparently. So, I don't know, guys. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, another used one I got is The Loved One by Evelyn Waugh. Is that how you say it? Evelyn Waugh. I love this cover. I love the retro look of it. Oof. Yeah, it's nice. Never read anything by this author, but it says this is described by the author as a little nightmare produced by the unaccustomed high living of a brief visit to Hollywood. An outrageously comic novel of the commercialization of death itself. Mr. Joyboy, oh my god, One Piece fans are quaking. Mr. Joyboy, the ultimate embalmer, and Amy Thanatogenos, crematorium cosmetician, find their romance complicated by the appearance of a young English poet named Dennis Barlow. This bizarre triangle is played out against an ironic and macabre backdrop, a full-service funeral home for Hollywood's departed greats called Whispering Glades, and a pet cemetery. That sounds good. But then when I got this and I opened this up, of course I sniff it and look at the pages and stuff and make sure that the previous owner didn't do anything weird. It's prefaced with a warning. As I have said, this is a nightmare and in parts perhaps somewhat gruesome. The squeamish should return their copies to the library or the bookstore unread. Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm gonna read it. Okay, another one I got for Christmas was Hound by Ken Greenhall. I've been meaning to read this since last August, okay? I also didn't know this was so short. Like, boop. Little baby. Love the cover. We're from the point of view of a homicidal bull terrier. So like full stop, that's kind of all I need to know. You know, being from the point of view of a violent human killing animal, yeah. That sounds awesome. There is never laughter in this house, only the dull sounds of age and weakness. But I am not weak. I have a strength and resourcefulness that the old woman probably never had. What are the possibilities of my strength? That is a thought I have never had before. What if some morning, as the old woman stood at the head of the staircase, she were suddenly to feel a weight thrusting against the back of her legs? What if she were to lunge forward, grasping at the air, striking her thin skull against the edge of a stair? What would become of me if she were found unmoving at the bottom of the stairway? Someone else would love me as she has loved me, I'm certain of that. People have a great interest in love. They see it everywhere. Probably even in me. That sounds great. Next is a recommendation I actually got on a YouTube channel that doesn't specialize in books, but they always talk about their favorite things, I think like quarterly. So that is Super Eyepatch Wolf. He recommended this, and I'm gonna read it. So that is The Horizon by J.H. So I think this was originally a webtoon. What he described it as, and what intrigued me, is better than the synopsis on the back. Basically, we're following these two kids in this post-apocalyptic world, trying to survive, walking along, and then one day it comes to their attention that they are being followed by this adult man. And he doesn't seem to be like sick or anything, but he doesn't speak to them. And as he gets closer and closer, whenever they bring out like food or water, he always snatches it from them and eats it all for himself. And then like doesn't say anything. And he kind of is just like this looming presence. And that is creepy to me. That is very much like It Follows vibes, and I am intrigued by that. Okay, next is another one I got on another sort of YouTube channel's best of the year list. So this was from the YouTube channel Shelly Swearingen, and she said that this was one of her best books of 2023. That is Women Talking by Miriam Toews. And even just the way Shelly talked about this, I could tell that this was a very emotionally affecting novel, and I am really intrigued. This is loosely based on real events, and it's the story of 8 women in a remote Mennonite colony who face an agonizing decision in the aftermath of a series of unspeakable sexual crimes. So for the past 2 years, each of these 8 women and more than 100 other girls in their colony have been repeatedly violated in the night by demons coming to punish them for their sins. Now that the women have learned that they were in fact drugged and attacked by a group of men from their own community, they are determined to protect themselves and their daughters from future harm. While the men of the colony are off in the city attempting to raise enough money to bail out the rapists and bring them home, these women, all illiterate, without any knowledge of the world outside their community, and unable to even speak the language of the country they live in, have very little time to make a choice. Should they stay in the only world they've ever known, or should they dare to escape? Yeah, that sounds freaking messed up, and I am excited to read it. So, I'm going to. So next is one that I also got for Christmas from my sister. That is The 7 Days of Peter Crumb by Johnny Glynn. I think this is one I found like years ago on a most disturbing books I've ever read type list. I think this is supposed to be pretty extreme horror, and I'll see if I can stomach it. So we're following Peter Crumb, who is a man with 2 personalities, only one of which is capable of remorse. His life has been derailed by a single devastating act of violence, and now in what he intends to be his last week on Earth, he is determined to leave his mark upon humanity, randomly, unjustly, with infinite attention to detail. So it sounds like we're just gonna follow this man on his like final 7 days of a spree of violence and slaughter. So yeah, maybe I could like it. It's gonna depend on how it's written, so Johnny Glynn, don't let me down. Next is another one that I would not have picked up based on the synopsis. I do not care about the French Revolution. Do not talk to me about the French Revolution. I don't care. I don't care. But another YouTube channel I kind of randomly stumbled on, she made a short about this, and she read like a single line from this, and I was like, that sounds violent. in a way that I could like. But also the cover is nice. So I was like, yeah, you know, it wouldn't be the worst thing for me to own, you know? But that is The Glutton by A.K. Blakemore. Never read anything by this author, but the cover, come on, that's nice. That's nice. I'm usually not a hardcover girly, but yeah. So yeah, we are in France in 1798. So like, ew, why? But okay, fine. Nuns move along the dark corridors of a Versailles hospital where the young sister Perpétue has been tasked with sitting with the patient who must always be watched. Gaunt and ailing, the man is rumored to have eaten a golden fork that is killing him from the inside. What's more, he is said to have done monstrous things in his attempts to sate an insatiable appetite. An appetite, they say, tortures him still. But such frightful stories can hardly be true. Sister Perpétue will plunge into the darkness to find out for herself, and all at once the bewitching, terrible tale of the great Terreur begins to unfold. This man Terreur, it seems like he comes from this very rural, innocent, untouched place. And then he is thrust into the revolution, and all of the violence irrevocably changes him and makes him do all these monstrous things that take away his innocence. So I am excited to read this. Looking forward to it. Okay, and then the last one I think was also a recommendation from Valentina. Pretty sure. I think she had a video about disturbing books that I watched. That is The Blizzard by Vladimir Sorokin. I have never read anything by this author. I've not read a lot of Russian literature. So this is about Garin, who is a district doctor who is desperately trying to reach the village of Dolgoy, where a mysterious epidemic is turning people into zombies. He carries with him a vaccine that will prevent the spread of this terrible disease, but is stymied in his travels by an impenetrable blizzard. A trip that should last no more than a few hours turns into a metaphysical journey, an expedition filled with extraordinary encounters, dangerous escapades, torturous imaginings, and amorous adventures. So that sounds like it's going to be very fever dreamy, very much like Man vs. Nature, while also maybe being like man versus himself and like his demons, etc., etc. I am excited to read this. This sounds good. This sounds disturbing. Sounds like something I will like. Okay, we got some books. Okay, those are some books that I have purchased and or received lately that I am excited to read. So I really want to thank you for watching. You could watch my other videos if you want. You could like this video. You could comment some stuff, like what you're reading, if you read any of these books, if you want to read any of these books. And that's the end of the video. Okay, love you guys. Okay, bye.